Ultra. You might know Sam Renouf, and that's Brett there in the black. But yeah, no, that was an awesome track and an awesome place to train. This was the accommodation, so we weren't really slumming it too much. So it was great, but it was very isolated, and we did lack access to some facilities to really good medical care. It was more difficult to get the food that we wanted. We didn't have any bike maintenance and no hairdressers. So Ronaldo was doing a snip job on Ben Sanson with Tim.
Where were you?
In Thailand, near Phuket, just off Phuket, between Phuket and Krabi. But it really was pretty isolated. There were no tourists. I mean, it was literally us, and we get up at 6:30 and go to bed at 9, and life was incredibly regimented. Switzerland. This is our training camp in Switzerland. It's in a village called Leysin at an altitude of about 1,400. Again, really isolated, but a fantastic place to train and amazing views. That's a view from my balcony. But the track is actually down in Aigle, which is at the bottom of the valley. So we have to cycle down, do the track, beast ourselves, and then cycle 16k up the mountain. So what doesn't kill you makes you stronger, right? So a bit about the program. I mean, it's difficult to make generalizations. Our programs are incredibly individualized and tailored to the athlete. I mean, we all swim as a group, and there might be 3 swim sessions going on depending on the different athletes, depending on their different techniques. So that was fantastic for me to find a squad where you could train in a group, but where everything was definitely tailored to you. We do train 7 days a week. I like to say we train 24 hours a day, because when we're eating, we're training. When we're resting, we're training. When we're sleeping, that's part of training. But in terms of physical exertion, I guess we are training 7 days a week, 2 to 3 times a day, between on average 4 to 6 hours a day. We swim in a group. We run. I did a lot of running on the trails on my own, but on the track we do. I did with other members of the team. Bike, sometimes it varied. Sometimes on my own, sometimes longer rides with a group. We have active recovery days where we're basically spinning out. So rather than having a complete rest day, we'll just get on the bike and spin for a couple of hours, or just do a really easy jog or something like that. We do have rest days, but they're incorporated as and when Brett thinks we need them, and not as not on some kind of regular basis. In terms of financially supporting myself, last year I was lucky enough to do races where I won a bit of money, so I could support myself that way. I had a bit of savings from when I was working. I didn't have any sponsorship agreements, and it was incredibly difficult for me to get anything, even after being at World Age Group Championships. It's so incredibly difficult to get free kit, let alone any kind of financial sponsorship. I was getting Mizuno shoes from a shop called The Runner's Guide, which is down in Torquay, which was a friend of a friend. So it was great to get those. And obviously Cervelo sponsored the team, so I got myself a bike, and Powerbar gave me free products before Hawaii. In terms of the training, it wasn't more difficult than I expected. Of course, it's incredibly challenging, but I never felt that I was pushed beyond my limits. But the change in lifestyle was incredibly difficult for me to cope with. As I said before, it's incredibly regimented and monotonous. and initially I did find it very hard to become accepted by the team. They're all experienced professional athletes. I was this naive age grouper, and I came in and was probably more anxious to prove myself, and that might have put, I guess, some noses out of joint. But yeah, it was really, really tough, and it's a very tough environment to be in, and I had to rely a lot on contact with my friends to keep me sane, especially in the first few months. In terms of pros and cons, the worst bits for me are being away from my family and friends, and also, believe it or not, being surrounded day in, day out by triathletes and triathlon was very difficult for me. I didn't see myself first and foremost as a triathlete. I was just doing the sport I loved, but I didn't know anything about triathlon. I didn't know who anybody was. I didn't read any of the magazines. I'd never watched a video of Kona, and I didn't know any of the stats, and that's all they talked about, and I didn't have anything to say. So I did feel quite isolated. Obviously, the lack of kind of holidays and spontaneity is quite difficult, but I think we all find that as age groupers and as pros. You can't just go off and go away for 2 weeks and forget about your training, especially if you're serious about it. And I guess the chafing is a problem, and the size of my calves is also a bit of an issue. But the highlights are without a doubt the travelling, the training and the racing. I mean, I get paid now, thankfully, to do a sport that I love, and I've got the opportunity as a professional to give it absolute everything and be the best athlete that I can possibly be. And I guess instead of kind of paper clips and photocopiers, my office is full of kind of Swiss alpine meadows and flowers and fresh air. So it is absolutely fantastic. In terms of injury, luckily I've had no serious injuries since I turned professional. As an age grouper, I had problems with my right foot. I kind of overpronated. I had gait analysis and did actually get orthotics and physio, and since then I've had no problems, which is great. I've actually had a sore shoulder. I think I overdid press ups the last couple of weeks, and I've been having treatment here. So that's been great. I'd also strongly recommend. I'm not just saying that because we are here and you do offer this service, but sports massage. I mean, I have it on a regular basis, and I really do think that helps keep my body pretty much injury-free. Sensible nutrition, of course, is key. I would recommend gait analysis if you do have chronic running injuries, and of course, the key is a proper training program to make sure that you're not overtraining in any particular area. So moving on now to the races in 2007. The first one I want to talk very briefly about is the race in the Philippines. And this is fantastic. This was the first ITU, the first ITU points race that I did. Oh no, that I won. Yeah, I won that one. I did the Mekong one before, but this is the second one I did. But it was amazing, not necessarily because of the race and the victory, but because of the people that I met. And it was absolutely fantastic. And my visit there kind of catalysed this social development project that we've now got going with the Philippines. So I'm incredibly happy about that, and I think it really does show that you can have an impact a lot wider than you might expect as a professional athlete. The second race, Alpe d'Huez, which was it blew me away. It was one of the best races I have ever done, and it was in a beautiful location. It was incredibly challenging. 2.2k swim in an alpine amazing. And then 115k on the bike, finishing with this climb that you can see with the road snaking up Duez, and then 22k run at the top. I punctured and crashed at that race, so that made the victory even more special. The last one I want to really talk about before Kona was Korea. And Korea was a fantastic race for me. It was incredibly challenging, incredibly hot, but it was the race that I qualified for Kona, and it gave me the confidence to think that perhaps I could be more successful than I'd given myself credit for, and it also enabled me to develop a strategy to cope with the heat. It was about 95 degrees and about 95% humidity at Korea, and it was really tough, physically and mentally. But I'll also remember it for this guy. He's an 80-year-old Korean chap, and he finished about 20 minutes before the cutoff. And for me, that's really pretty inspirational, and it's what triathlon, and particularly Ironman, I think, is all about. So his, the memory of that will really stick with me. A lot of people ask me why I ended up going long. I mean, I started with the team thinking I was an Olympic distance triathlete, and I've ended up doing Ironman. And I got an email in my junk mail today, which made me laugh. It just said length matters and take Viagra. And so I didn't take them up on the offer, but I, it did get me thinking, why have I gone long? And I think the long distance just feels more natural to me. I'm better at it, and I think we always enjoy doing what we're good at. I love the endurance challenge, and I like the fact that the Ironman race is a lot like life. You're going to have ups and you're going to have downs, and you're going to have good times and you're going to have bad times. And it's about how you deal with those kind of peaks and troughs. So it's not necessarily the strongest or most physically capable person that comes out on top. I think it's a combination of the mental and the physical, and I don't think you necessarily get that as much with shorter distance racing. So I think that's why I'm more attracted to the longer distance events. So moving swiftly on to Hawaii. Hawaii was on the 13th of October. I flew out to Hawaii on the 4th. So the 4th or 5th. The 4th went on for ages and ages because I kept going over and over date lines. But it was about the 4th, so about 10 days before, which was great because it just enabled me to find my feet, to get settled, to find out where to get food, to get used to the temperatures and that kind of thing. In terms of training, I had the same training outline that I'd been following for weeks, but just reduced volume. So the same intensity, but just a reduction in volume. So it's to say I'd maybe do a 2-hour run before Hawaii. It would maybe I'd do an hour and a quarter as my long run, and 5k swim would become a 3k swim, but it would still have those hard interval sets in. And I did do a brick or a complete mini triathlon, actually it was on the Wednesday, with the race being on the Saturday. And Thursday for me was an almost total rest day. I was walking around, registering, doing that kind of thing, but I didn't actually do too much on the Thursday. And then on the Friday it was 20 minutes of each, 30 minutes swim, 20 minute run, jog, and 20 minutes on the bike. And then the race was on the Saturday. I did have a deep tissue sports massage the week before, and then I had a very gentle massage on the Thursday. which I mean I really enjoy, not least just because it helps me relax as much as anything. So the race itself, I guess many of you stayed up all night watching it or have read the reports.